Welcome back to our channel, your premier source for the most explosive and heart-wrenching updates from the world of daytime television. Today is a truly beautiful day to dive deep into the glamorous, yet treacherous halls of Forrester Creations. Grab your favorite beverage, settle into a comfortable spot, and let us unpack a monumental bombshell that is destined to change everything. Let's get into it. The late evening hours had descended upon the sprawling Los Angeles skyline, casting long, imposing shadows across the luxurious executive office of Forrester Creations. The building, usually a bustling epicenter of haute couture and relentless corporate ambition, was eerily silent. Ridge Forrester stood alone by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the glittering city lights below, though his mind was miles away from the breathtaking view. The weight of his family's legacy and the endless internal warfare had been suffocating him lately. He had just navigated the treacherous waters of denying his wife, Brooke Logan Forrester, the coveted co-CEO position in order to protect his daughter, Steffy Forrester Finnegan. The tension in his marriage was palpable, a fragile glass bridge that could shatter at the slightest misstep. Furthermore, the relentless demands from R.J. Forrester to terminate Will Spencer had only added to the agonizing pressure cooker that was his daily life. Ridge rubbed his temples, desperately yearning for a moment of absolute peace, completely unaware that the most seismic shockwave of his entire existence was about to breach his sanctuary. Without warning, the heavy mahogany doors of the CEO office creaked open, breaking the profound silence of the room. Ridge turned, half expecting to see Head of Security Charlie Weber conducting his final nightly rounds, or perhaps Brooke returning to make one last passionate plea for her rightful place on the Forrester throne. Instead, the dim ambient light of the office illuminated the unexpected and striking silhouette of Shauna Fulton. Her sudden appearance in Los Angeles alongside Wyatt Spencer had already sent ripples of suspicion through the city, particularly drawing the relentless interrogation of Bill Spencer. Bill had been entirely convinced that Shauna's sudden return was deeply intertwined with Spencer Publications, the ongoing corporate wars, or perhaps some hidden agenda involving her daughter, Flo. Ridge, too, naturally assumed that her late-night intrusion was strictly business-related, a calculated move in the endless chess game played by the city's elite families. However, as Shauna stepped further into the light, the corporate assumptions instantly evaporated from Ridge's mind. This was not the vibrant, fiercely confident, and playfully cunning Shauna Fulton that he remembered. The woman standing before him looked entirely shattered. Her usually impeccable posture was slumped with an invisible, crushing burden, and her hands trembled uncontrollably as she clutched her designer purse like a lifeline. Her eyes, usually sparkling with mischief and desert fire, were profoundly hollow, rimmed with the unmistakable redness of prolonged, agonizing weeping. The stark contrast between the Shauna he knew and the broken woman standing in his office sent an immediate, icy chill down Ridge's spine. The air in the room suddenly felt incredibly dense, charged with a terrifying electricity that signaled an impending catastrophe. "Shauna," Ridge began, his voice laced with a mixture of genuine concern and cautious hesitation. "What are you doing here at this hour? Bill was just asking about your sudden arrival in town. If this is about Wyatt or whatever machinations Bill is currently orchestrating, you need to know I don't have the bandwidth for Spencer drama tonight." He tried to maintain his authoritative composure, attempting to steer the conversation toward the predictable realm of corporate rivalry. But Shauna simply shook her head, a slow, agonizing movement that dismissed all his logical assumptions. A single tear escaped her deeply sorrowful eyes, tracing a glistening path down her cheek before falling onto the pristine lapel of her jacket. The silence that stretched between them was deafening, a heavy, suffocating void that demanded to be filled with the truth she was so desperately struggling to articulate. "This has absolutely nothing to do with Bill, Ridge, or Wyatt, or any of the corporate empires in this city," Shauna finally whispered, her voice trembling so violently that it barely carried across the expanse of the luxurious office. She took a tentative step forward, closing the physical distance between them, though emotionally they were standing on opposite sides of a vast, unbridgeable chasm. She drew a ragged, shuddering breath, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that made Ridge involuntarily take a step back. This is about us, Ridge. This is about a past that I have desperately tried to outrun, a past that I buried so deeply I convinced myself it was just a dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was real, and the consequences of what we did are standing right outside the gates of your perfect, fragile world. Ridge's brow furrowed in deep confusion, a protective wall of defensiveness instantly rising within him. Us? Shauna, there is no us. What happened between us? It was a lifetime ago. It was a mistake. The mere mention of their shared history immediately transported Ridge back to the neon-drenched, chaotic nights of Las Vegas. The memories came flooding back in a dizzying rush, the intoxicating escape from his reality, the endless flow of alcohol, the blurred laughter, and the surreal, impulsive wedding chapel ceremony orchestrated under the manipulative influence of Quinn Fuller. It was a chapter of his life he had fought tirelessly to erase, a reckless deviation that had nearly cost him the love of his life, Brooke. He had spent years atoning for that specific transgression, meticulously rebuilding the foundation of his marriage. The absolute last thing he needed right now, especially amidst the current explosive co-CEO power struggle, was Shauna Fulton resurrecting the ghosts of Las Vegas. I know you want to forget it, Shauna cried softly, the tears now flowing freely, completely ruining her immaculate makeup. I know you look back on those nights as a drunken blur, a terrible mistake that you had to fix so you could run back to Brooke. And I accepted that, Ridge. I walked away. I let you go back to your glamorous life, to your destiny with the Logans. And I took the memories of Vegas with me. But I didn't just take memories, Ridge. Her voice cracked, a devastating sound of pure, unadulterated maternal anguish. She reached out, her trembling fingers gripping the edge of his massive desk to steady herself, as if the sheer weight of the words she was about to speak would cause her to collapse entirely. Ridge felt the oxygen rapidly evacuate the room. His heart began to hammer against his ribs with a violent, terrifying rhythm. He stared at her, his mind racing through 1,000 impossible scenarios, desperately trying to construct a logical explanation for her profound distress. Shauna, what are you saying? What did you take with you? The words tasted like ash in his mouth. A primal, deeply ingrained instinct warned him that whatever she was about to say would fundamentally alter the trajectory of his universe. He wanted to cover his ears, to demand that she leave his office immediately, to preserve the blissful ignorance of his current existence. But he was completely paralyzed, held hostage by the raw, agonizing truth radiating from her tear-streaked face. I took our child, Ridge, Shauna confessed, the words finally tumbling from her lips in a breathless, devastated whisper. I was pregnant. After Vegas, after you went back to Brooke, I found out I was carrying your child. The absolute silence that followed her confession was apocalyptic. It was not a peaceful quiet, but rather the terrifying, vacuum-like stillness that immediately precedes a catastrophic explosion. The sprawling Los Angeles skyline outside the window seemed to freeze, the entire world halting on its axis as the sheer magnitude of her words hung suspended in the heavy air between them. Ridge stopped breathing. His eyes widened to an impossible degree, locking onto Shauna as if she had suddenly morphed into an unrecognizable, terrifying apparition. The physical impact of the revelation hit Ridge with the force of a runaway freight train. His knees instantly buckled, and he was forced to grip the back of his leather executive chair to prevent himself from collapsing onto the floor. The luxurious office began to spin sickeningly around him, the opulent artwork and sleek furniture blurring into a chaotic smear of colors. No, Ridge gasped, the word tearing from his throat in a raw, guttural sound of pure denial. No, that's impossible. Shauna, you're lying. You have to be lying. Why would you say something like this? Is this some kind of sick game? Did Bill put you up to this to destabilize me? He fired the accusations rapidly, desperately clinging to any rational explanation that would negate the terrifying reality she had just presented. I swear to you on my life, Ridge, it is the absolute truth, Shauna sobbed, shaking her head vehemently. I have hidden this secret in the darkest corners of my soul for decades. I went away. I handled it on my own. I raised our child far away from the toxic, relentless spotlight of the Forrester family. I wanted to protect my baby from the judgment, from the corporate wars, and most importantly, from the devastating heartbreak of knowing that their father never wanted them, that their conception was nothing more than a drunken mistake you desperately wanted to erase. Her words were like venomous daggers, piercing directly through Ridge's heart, leaving him bleeding out in the center of his own office. The mathematical reality of the timeline began to click into place within his stunned mind, solidifying the terrifying truth of her claim. Decades, Ridge whispered, his voice completely devoid of strength. He was doing the agonizing mental arithmetic, realizing the sheer expanse of time that had passed since their Las Vegas entanglement. You mean, our child, is an adult? The concept was entirely incomprehensible. He had a fully grown child walking the earth, a living, breathing human being possessing his DNA, his legacy, entirely unknown to him. He thought of Steffy, fiercely guarding her co-CEO position. He thought of RJ, demanding his place in the company. He thought of Thomas, navigating his own complex path. And now, out of the shadows of his most reckless mistake, a brand new heir had materialized, completely upending the established hierarchy of his dynasty. Shauna nodded, her expression shifting from profound sorrow to a stark, terrifying seriousness. Yes, Ridge, and that is exactly why I am here tonight. That is why I couldn't keep the secret any longer. Our child is not just an adult. They are brilliant, fiercely driven, and incredibly ambitious. They have the Fulton survival instinct mixed with the undeniable, relentless Forrester ambition, and they have found out the truth. They know who you are, Ridge. They know about the legacy, the empire, the immense wealth, and the power that courses through their veins. And they are no longer content to remain a hidden, forgotten secret in the shadows. The implications of Shauna's warning crashed over Ridge like a devastating tsunami. An ambitious, adult Forrester heir, raised in secrecy and fueled by decades of hidden resentment, was a corporate and familial nightmare of epic proportions. The timing could not possibly be more catastrophic. Steffi was already fiercely battling to maintain her absolute control over Forrester Creations, having just successfully fended off Brooke's aggressive attempt to seize the co-CEO spot. If a new, legitimate child of Ridge Forrester were to suddenly step into the light and demand their rightful birthright, it would ignite a corporate world war that would make all previous family feuds look like child's play. The very foundation of Forrester Creations would be shaken to its core, potentially tearing the family apart permanently. But beyond the immense corporate ramifications, Ridge's mind immediately, agonizingly slammed into the most devastating casualty of this revelation, Brooke. His beautiful, passionate, relentlessly loyal Logan. They had fought through hell and back to repair their marriage. They were currently navigating a highly volatile emotional minefield due to his recent decision to deny her the co-CEO position in favor of Steffi. Brooke was already feeling marginalized, deeply hurt, and incredibly protective of Hope's struggling fashion line. If Ridge were to walk into their home and confess that his drunken Las Vegas fling with Shauna Fulton had produced a secret child, a child who was now an ambitious adult demanding a piece of their world, it would be the absolute final, fatal blow to their fragile union. Brooke would be completely destroyed. The betrayal, even though it occurred in the past, would be an insurmountable mountain of pain. Brooke. Ridge choked out the name, his voice breaking completely. Tears finally breached his own eyes, blurring his vision as the terrifying reality of his impending future materialized before him. This will kill her, Shauna. This will absolutely destroy her. We just survived a war. We are barely holding on as it is. If I tell her this, she will never look at me the same way again. It will break her heart into a million pieces. He looked at Shauna with a mixture of profound desperation and deep-seated fury. Why? Why did you hide it? If you had told me then, we could have dealt with it. I would have taken responsibility. I would have been a father. You robbed me of my own child, Shauna. You robbed me of watching them grow up. Shauna flinched violently at his accusation, fresh tears spilling down her face. I was terrified, Ridge. I was terrified of Brooke, of the Forrester machine, of Quinn. I knew that if I brought a baby into this chaotic, destructive world, they would be used as a pawn in your endless games. I wanted a simple, loving life for my child. But I was wrong. I couldn't suppress the Forrester in them. The ambition, the drive, the absolute refusal to be ignored. It's in their blood, Ridge. It's in your blood. And now they are coming. They are coming to Los Angeles. And they're going to claim what they believe is rightfully theirs. I came here tonight to warn you, to give you a chance to prepare yourself, because the storm is about to break, and it is going to wash away everything you hold dear. Ridge stood frozen in the center of the luxurious office, the silence of a late evening now feeling like a heavy, suffocating tomb. The ghosts of his past had not just returned to haunt him. They had manifested into a living, breathing reality that threatened to completely incinerate his present and his future. He was a father to a stranger. He was a husband harboring a world-ending secret. He was a CEO facing the ultimate threat to his family's empire. As Shauna turned and quietly slipped out of the mahogany doors, leaving him entirely alone in the dim light, Ridge Forrester stared into the terrifying abyss of his new reality, knowing with absolute, terrifying certainty that his life and the lives of everyone he